This 4-day trip took place in 2022, and as a first destination I picked up Death Valley. Just before sunrise, I set off from the motel in Berry, less than 30 minutes from my destination, so that I could greet the rising sun on these yellow and brown striped hills shaped by the powerful force of water from the sediments of Furnace Creek Lake, which dried up over 5 million years ago. At the bottom of this lake, saline muds growl from the nearby highlands and ash falls from the then active Black Mountain volcanic field accumulated and mixed together, creating one of the most enigmatic landscapes in the United States. This place is called Zabriskie Point and is one of the most frequently photographed places in Death Valley. In the distance, you can see Panamint Range, and in the foreground, you can see Manly Beacon, peak rising to 251 meters. This is a view from the main viewpoint located close to the parking area. Less than 30 minutes of driving takes us to the next viewpoint, Dante's View. To get even better views, I decided to take the path leading off to the right from the parking lot a little higher. From this vantage point, there is a breathtaking view of the distant salt floods covering the floor of Death Valley, the Panamint Valley, and the ridges of the Amargosa Range to the east and the Panamint Range to the west. The amount of patterns and colors creating the landscape was stunning and immediately made me want to reach for my camera. Yep, this is a toy I rented for this trip. Of course, I would love to be able to drive with my Prowler through all those beautiful terrains, but this car was fun. My next destination was Furnace Creek, where I planned to eat. Price for the meal was fine. There was buffet available, and for $21 you could eat your fill. Quite surprising is the fuel cost in Furnace Creek was crazy high. More than $8 per gallon when average price was around $5.20. So you better enter the park fully fueled. Outside the restaurant, which is in the hotel opened in 1927, there is a small museum featuring few transportation tools to haul borax from historic mines in Rhine, California. This 20-mule team from 1885 was used in hauling 24 tons of borax from Death Valley to Mojave, 165 miles, approximately 70 miles a day. Just imagine 10 days on the desert with the rig reaching 36.5 tons in that dust and heat. After a few years, in 1894, the old Dineg, a steam tractor, was purchased and mule teams were replaced. However, old Dineg required constant maintenance and had major problems with sand and steep grades. After a one-year trial, mules proved more productive and reliable, but they were finally replaced by a narrow gauge railroad in 1898. After 2 hours of resting in the inn, I drove another 26 minutes to Artist Drive. It is a 9-mile one-way winding drive through multi-hued mountains. The scenic loop has a couple of stops along the way. One must-visit stop is an Artist Palette. It is a place to see rainbow mountains. The rainbow colors come from a mix of rich minerals and elements found in the soil that have oxidized and produced these colorful mountains. Iron oxides produce reds, pinks and yellows, while manganese minerals create lavender and purple hues. The decomposition of tuff-derived mica adds green tones to the palette. This unique combination of colors creates a mesmerizing and otherworldly landscape. From Artist Drive, I head a bit south to the Badwater Basin, but as I head 4x4, I decided to start my exploration from the west side of the basin, and from the Badwater Basin Road I turned right to West Side Road. Love those easy to remember road names. Heading south, there was a Panamint mountain range in the front of me, with the highest peak called Telescope Peak and a height of 3,036.8 meters. Others nearby are Rogers Peak, 3,146 meters, Sentinel Peak, 2,937, and a few others higher than 2,000 meters. You really wouldn't tell, those peaks are so high from that perspective. There are a few tracks towards this mountain range. Trail Canyon Road, Death Valley Canyon Road, Hopu Canyon Road, leading close to Telescope Peak. I took a short ride Hopu Canyon Road, but as I wanted to be on the basin at sunset, I didn't go far. The road is a fun but rough drive. As you can see, standard Jeep is fine, but do not attempt it any standard SUV without good clearance and a skid plate. The elevation gain seems minimal as I'm driving towards the canyon mouth, but glazing back over my shoulder, it becomes quite obvious that the salt pan of Badwater Basin is dropping away in vertical meters quite rapidly. History tells us that this road was built by the hand of Shorty Borden, who also dug the well near what is known as the West Side Road. He built the 9 miles of this roadbed with the help of his 2 burros and simple hand tools. 6 months, spanning portions of 1932-33, were required for Shorty to complete this task, motivated by his silver find up the canyon. Observing the thousands of rocks strewn everywhere, it is a wonder to me that Shorty completed this task. It was tempting to follow this trail, but it was also getting late and I planned a walk to salt formations located somewhere in the basin flats, so had to turn back. Seeing this uphill part of the road and rocky nature of this canyon, I have the utmost respect for what Alexander Shorty Borden did here over 70 years ago. Look at this area. Who today would even consider such an undertaking? After coming back to West Side Road, I started to search for the best spot to park and have shortest way to walk towards salt formations, so finally parked near Eagle Borax Springs and started my walk through the basin. Did I tell you it was windy? No? So it was. The wind blew like crazy. It was really hard to stand the noise in my head. Constant high-volume strong wind stirring up clouds of dust and totally nowhere you could hide from. I even started yelling at it to shut up. It was a really exhausting experience. I wished the views were better, and of course there was no beautiful sunset as the sun hid behind the clouds.
This is just crazy. I've never experienced wind like this. I'm heading towards Badwater Basin from the west side, and all you can see around, it's just empty desert and it's windy like shit.
After making around 5 kilometers, I was just in the middle of the basin and I just gave up. The formations were not spectacular. Sky was hazy, so there was no chance to experience the darkest sky in America. And I'm glad I put a point on the Google Maps where my car was, as after the sunset it got really dark and no points set previously for orientation were visible anymore. At least I made it back. This poor duck didn't stand the weather and died there in the middle of this salty desert. Not sure if you can hear it, but I tried to capture the sound of breaking salt beneath my feet. It just reminded me of walking on an iced lake. I had this funny thought in my head: it would be quite bizarre to drown in the middle of this desert if there was water under this layer of salt. I was in the middle of basin though. I spent the night in the car, sleeping on the back, and moved to the other side of the basin before sunrise. I welcomed next sunrise in Badwater Basin from the east side. It was around 20 minutes walk from the parking lot to get to the spot with some bigger salt formations. Don't be fooled when you get out of the car and see salt flats. Those are not the ones you want to shoot. To see the nice honeycombs, you need to walk a bit. And that also helps to move away from potential tourists, although at the time when I was there were none. Lucky me. No crazy wind this morning and clear views finally, so it was a really pleasant walk at the sunrise. Next planned stop was Ubehebe Crater, quite far from the main attractions in Death Valley. It's an hour drive from the basin. Leaving east entrance to the Badwater Basin, I've noticed a dirt road on the right. It's called Natural Bridge Road and it leads to the parking lot, from which you can enter a trail leading to natural attractions such as 50 feet tall natural bridge. I didn't take a walk as the plan was to visit the crater and then Mesquite sand dunes at sunset and drive Artist Drive scenic loop once again. Artist Drive rises up to the top of an alluvial fan fed by the deep canyon cut in the Black Mountains. Alluvial fan is an accumulation of sediments that fans outwards from a concentrated source of sediments such as a narrow canyon emerging from an escarpment. They form where flow emerges from a confined channel and is free to spread out and infiltrate the surface. This reduces the carrying capacity of the flow and results in deposition of sediments. Alluvial fans are characteristic of mountainous terrain in very dry climates, but are also found in more humid environments and in areas of moderate glaciation. They have also been found on Mars and Titan, showing that fluvial processes have occurred on other worlds. No other than one of the first thoughts one has when crossing this desert is that the entire area resembles of Martian landscape. where the Death Valley name comes from? In October 1849, a group of 20 wagons heading for the recently discovered California goldfields crossed the Utah-Nevada border. Conscious of what had happened a year earlier to the other group, whose members had been trapped in the mountains by winter and lost nearly half the number, they were anxious to cross the Sierra Nevada before snow blocked the passes. So they took a shortcut along an old Spanish trail and desert cutoff and wandered there lost and half-starved for 4 months. When they finally trekked out of the desert, one of them bided farewell, saying, "Goodbye, Death Valley." It was a name that stuck. Today, traversing the valley is no longer so dangerous, but you still have to remember that it is a desert and a completely inhospitable area, so remember to follow basic safety rules when going here. Ubehebe Crater that I have visited next is a volcanic crater that was created about 2100 years ago from a steam and gas explosion. It formed during a series of explosions set off as molten rock in form of basaltic magma rising toward the Earth's surface, flushed groundwater to steam. The explosive magma-water interaction blasted pulverized rock high into the air. The ejected deposits are comprised of both basaltic lava, about a third, and fragments of sandstone and gravel from the pre-existing landscape, about 2/3. Debris from the explosions blankets an area of about 40 square kilometers, and the eruptive episode probably lasted a few days or weeks. You can often read that Ubehebe means big basket, but beside it looks like one. It's probably not true. During my visit to the crater area and my attempts to film it in a relatively static way, which was extremely difficult with the wind trying to tear my head off again, my struggles were closely watched by this little fellow. His close encounter attracted my attention, so I turned my camera towards him for a moment. I'm sure he didn't want to act as a model and waited for some tasty threat, but nevertheless he patiently endured my attempts to keep the frame stable, which was quite a challenge when shooting handheld with a 300mm lens. Look how strong the wind was that day. After making a few hops towards the crater, the bird simply spread its wings and rose into the air without making any movements. As already mentioned, I planned to visit Mesquite sand dunes at sunset, but on my way back from Ubehebe Crater, noticed turn to Titus Canyon Road. When you take left from the Scottish Castle Road leading to Ubehebe, you won't be able to drive the Titus Canyon Road as it is one-way trail. You need to take Highway 374 towards Betty and take left to Titus. Worth a drive. The road is a rugged backcountry drive. It's pretty rough and steep at times, with lots of narrow sections and tight turns, but I claim it would be doable in standard car, just one needs to be careful. This 27-mile one-way backcountry road will take you over stunning mountain passes and between the towering walls of a narrow twisting canyon. This road was not built for us tourists to take in the scenery. An area along the road started becoming heavily mined in the early 20th century. The road was built in 1926 as a way to get the found mines. Tons of people made the journey under the promise of lucrative and successful mining prospects, but in the end, the mines produced extremely little, leading to the financial collapse of the project less than a year after its establishment. The Park Service estimates that Titus Canyon Drive will take 2 to 3 hours. I didn't stop to do any of the side hikes that you can do from the road, but I was shooting photos and videos though. All the drive took me around 2 hours, so either I was driving too fast, or it is doable in slightly shorter time than estimated by the Park Service. If you still want to see it but afraid to enter it without four-wheel drive or a high-clearance vehicle, or if you're short on time, you still can do Titus Canyon. The last 3 miles of Titus Canyon Road is a two-way graded dirt road that's okay for standard two-wheel drive cars. You can drive up this two-way section from Scottish Castle Road and park your car just outside of the canyon's exit, which is right here. From this point, you can hike right into Titus Canyon and see the narrowest and best parts of it. But I still do highly recommend doing the entire Titus Canyon Drive. The canyon itself is just one small part of an entire epic scenic drive, and the time and effort it takes to complete it and drive over Red Pass is more than worth it. Especially that if you drive carefully, you shouldn't have any problems.